as the Torah refers to this as Shabbos, the 7 Shabboses, even though technically, of course, that means week, but the Rebbes are pointing out that there's a significance as we're going to talk about. And even though it says in other places of the Torah that you should count 6 weeks, but nevertheless, at this verse particularly, it addresses it as the 7 Shabboses.
Translate.
Which it says after. It doesn't say after the 7th week. It says after the 7th Shabbos. So again, we're trying to figure out what's the significance and why is it addressed particularly in that way. And so the way this all works is that the beginning of the Torah says it starts Memachras HaShabbos, from after Shabbat, but we know it means after the first day of the holiday of which we're celebrating the Exodus from Mitzrayim. And the second time it says, and then you'll do it till Mimachras HaShabbos, after the Shabbos, which is referring to the 50th day of the counting. Now all this is connected to each other. The fact that that Mitzrayim is connected to Mount Sinai clearly is indicated in the pasuk that when you will leave Mitzrayim, you'll come and serve me at this mountain. That's the giving of the Torah and the receiving of the Torah. And what were the days that were between them? What connected those days? So it's brought down in the Medrash, and also the Rambam brings it down in his book called Meir Nevuchim, the Guide for the Perplexed. I'm hearing voice in the background, by the way. I'm not sure. I hear some sounds, but anyway, the fact that the Jewish people knew that they were on their way now to go and to receive the Torah at Mount Sinai. That's what occupied their minds in that time. And this is every day that they were counting. They were feeling getting closer to that time when Hashem was going to reveal what He did at Sinai. With great desire, they counted. Now, certainly, since man, as it says in the verse, was created to work hard, and everything is connected to the way in which we work to serve Hashem, so there has to be a lesson from this in the way we serve Hashem. And since these are 3 separate concepts, the concept of Pesach, the concept of counting, the concept of Shavuot, are 3 separate concepts. So therefore, since we are a reflection of the above, these concepts must be present within the way we are serving Hashem. And not only are they connected to each other, but there's an order to it, there's a system to it, and the beginning of it is connected specifically to leaving Mitzrayim.
darf na ihnen wie was technisch. Und wir haben gelernt, befehlen. Matten Teil und Kabbalah hat Teil.
And the ending of this process must be in a way where there's the giving of the Torah and the receiving of the Torah.
Was der ihnen haben Kasche. Und ich haben Mechin, was gerät zu. Der Matten Teil. Du was nennt, ich so in Jahren und die Simas Kehr und die Jahren Scherifiser, bis den Tag Messias Mitzrayim, und der wird von der alle 3 Jahren in Linie.
And then by counting in between the leaving of Mitzrayim and by on a daily basis being connected to what it means to leave Mitzrayim and to integrate it and to bring about that within our journey, that is what connects the leaving of Mitzrayim to the receiving and the giving of the Torah.
Und der Adgosche Samed sagt, der Ihnen von Shavuot, begab dem Rischen von Mitzrayim, von Pesach, von dem Tag von Yisrael, von Mitzrayim, das wir mit Shmini Atzeret, begab die Shiva Yemei HaSukkos.
So he says in the Medrash, he says that the comparison for the connection between Passover and Shavuot would be similar to the connection between the 8th day of Sukkot, which is a separate holiday, Shmini Atzeres, versus the 7 days of Sukkot.
Was achuz die Inyonen von Pazar Kosher, was in Drufe das Mechulek de Yema Shmini, deter das ein Inyen und ein Hemscher, bis eine Kude alle Shmeine Yomim Biyachad, davon ist echt verstandig. Bei dem Bier von der Medisch, als sehe das Sechit von der Alle Unionen, was haben sie schon bei Chamischosser benissen und lendigen sich mit Matten Teere.
So he says the same is also true. He says just like the 8th day is, even though it's an independent holiday, Shmini Atzeret, but nevertheless it's still the 8th of the 7th day. It's called the 8th, and yes, it's virtuous, and it has a greater light that shines on it, and we learned about that in the past. But the fact is, it's still part of the 8th. So the same is also true with the connection with Shavuot, that the Shavuot, since it's compared to the connection between the 8th day and the first 7 days, that there's a deep connection between the holiday of Shavuot with the leaving of Mitzrayim. And he says this is related to the 3 different pillars, the 3 different ways in which we serve Hashem. As you know, it's actually what you just mentioned. There's Torah, there's prayer, and there's doing acts of goodness and kindness. So, which is also Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes, by the way. Yep. So this is how they're all connected as one. Yep. The leaving Mitzrayim, the counting of the Omer, and the giving and receiving of the Torah. He says what's the consistent factor between all 3 of them is, since the main thing is the action, so the fact that we put in each one of these into action, that's the main nekuda, that's that which binds them all together and unifies them. The fact that in each one of those, the main thing is taking the action.
And
the Rebbe says that just like at the time that people left Mitzrayim, it was everybody that was part of this service. It was from the heads of your tribes to those who were the water carriers. So it was everybody. So the same is also true now when we are preparing during this time to receive the Torah again. The lesson that we learn from it is applicable to every one of us. No one can say, it's not for me because I'm not holy enough. It's not just for holy people.
Das Tage Kohl, welche bevon Shiuri Dini, wobei sie was egal, gehallig.
And even though each person, of course, according to his level and according to his ability, the way that he serves Hashem ascends in that context.
Dafür wie das aber da mit alle Plotten, wie es Plottische Beplotten von der Daisuga Veda.
Nevertheless, all the details, going down to the details of the details, about the three different ways in which we serve Hashem are applicable to every one of us, regardless of what level we may be at the current time.
And the Kitzur Havanat und Kudische Bedover, Adrinje von Itzias Mitzrayim. Von dem wollte ich werden in mein Leben von Kibarach Hoom. Und wenn ich jetzt geteilt mit Paschas, haben wir Geitaris von Mitzrayim von Erwas Hodes.
So first let's address, because every part of the details over here are applicable to us. So let's talk about leaving Mitzrayim. Leaving Mitzrayim, first of all, they had to run away. And also, the idea of it was about the incredible impurity of the land that they were leaving from. So the first lesson over here for us is restriction. Restriction from that which the Torah tells us is negativity. And that's the way we get to have the exodus from the klippa of the land, from the dark energy.
Say it again.
That the way, but what is a practical application on how we serve Hashem to the leaving of Mitzrayim is by us practicing restriction. That means that which the King David says, Sur Meira, stay away from bad. There are 365 negative commandments. And the first thing is practicing restriction. That's the first aspect of leaving Mitzrayim. That's what the practical application, whatever our habits that we may have, or whatever it is that we have in our life that's inconsistent with the light. So, what does it mean to leave Mitzrayim? Is to be able to be able to overcome that, and to be able to practice restriction when the temptation for it arrives.
Well, the pashte sidos da Veda von Baruch Aber ich hasse, dass ich wegen der Linien von das Hepech hatte, und Hepech Horotze, Vechuhu.
And this is what it means that the nation, they ran away. It means that when something that is opposite of good comes your way,
So the
very first reaction that we have to have is to run away from it. Like the Jewish, our ancestors did, they ran away from Mitzrayim.
Unbelievable.
Was die Klolles ist die Sache verbunden mit Mitzvahs Leisesse. So, aber da echt bechol Ingen wie Ingen, sei der Seische Bedauer, wie Chivsche Bedauer, und sei der Leisasische Bedauer.
And even though usually this would be applicable to acting of restriction, but the truth is you have both restriction and proactivity, both in the negative and the positive commandments. So that means that this idea of running is not just in regards running away from doing something negative, but also when it comes to us having the possibility to do a mitzvah, a positive mitzvah, to run towards it, not to allow the Yetzirah, the negativity which represents Mitzrayim, to hold us back from the excitement of pursuing that mitzvah, but rather, again, we're talking about leaving our personal Mitzrayim, our personal limitations, our personal slavery, is that we enact that possibility to run towards it like our ancestors did. But the general concept is of leaving Mitzrayim is that whatever is called bilti ratzui, that which is not desired from above, we do everything that we can to distance ourselves from it, to run away from it, to run away from that force within us. That's what it means to be freed from our internal Mitzrayim. Which generally speaking, this is what the Zohar refers to as iskafia, Iskafia means to subjugate. The Zohar tells us that there are two movements in our service to Hashem. First, there's the subjugation of the negative side, and then there's a transformation of the self where we're not fighting against the negativity anymore. So this in general, what is Yetzias Mitzrayim? Yetzias Mitzrayim is that which the Zohar calls the subjugation of the negative side. That's what the equation it is to our lives today, and its relevance is running away from and being freed of the slaveries that are holding us back from our deeper connection with Hashem.
In der Einjörnung von Asei-Tev, der Brieche von Yetzias Mitzrayim ist auch wie sollte das Gehöre feiern. Auf Alpikein bleibt sich noch der Nocharechen. Lachas kamen wie kamen, man darf noch aber haben die Schleimus.
So the running away from our personal Mitzrayim is a split second. That's once you decide not to do it, it's a split second. But after that split second happens, there's still what's called a roshan, is an imprint of where we were before we decided we're going away from that addiction or whatever it is. So that there's an impression that still remains that we have to deal with, which is what we're getting into now, is the counting of the Omer.
So what he just said, what he just said, at each second, at each moment of our life, at every second, we have an opportunity to leave darkness and connect to the light. It can be done in a second.
Correct.
Which reality, what it means.
He said like the blink, the leaving of our personal Mitzrayim and the leaving of Mitzrayim takes place in the time of like a blink of an eye.
Which really that means is which at each second of our life, even if you're 95 years old and the most wicked person in the world, you have an opportunity at that second. You do your teshuvah and your tikkun in 1 second. That's
Correct.
What he's saying.
Correct.
Oh my God, go.
Correct.
Go.
Soon wir nicht nur das Holobose, aber loschen, wie mir sagt, ins Vieres Heime. Hat es wird geteilt auf Sheva Shavuot, und dort durch die Bedürfnisse von Sheva Mides, und dort der Chavesis Hode, Misach, das bin ich zu, bechol Wovchova, das der Ihnen Havede Bemides, und das der Riker Havede.
So now comes the main work, and the main work is the 49 days, which are the 7 weeks connected to the 7 vidot, the 7 sfirot. And in fact, the transformation of our emotional being is the main service, now becomes the main service. I mean, we left our Egypt, and now we have to clean up our vessels so that we don't end up going back into Mitzrayim anymore. So he says, in fact, when we say in the Torah, you should love Hashem with all your heart, what does it mean with all your hearts? Hearts, plural. So even the point is that all aspects of who we are love both the animal and the godly side, but the point that the Rebbe brings out is that what does it mean to love, what's a practical application to love Hashem with all your heart is to work on your midot, to work on your 7 midot. And that's what we do during the 7 weeks that we're working day by day, examining each day a different part of our midot to be able to clean it up and to transform it.
Tanya bekamen Mekemis in de Zufim Shalach with Barichos. Was in Zuf jeder Miede von der Shiva zählt vorgegeben in Kama Protje.
Now this is like it's explained in Tanya and other places, but this is the reason why every one of the 7 break down into 7.
Von Chesed shebe Chesed, bis Malchus shebe Malchus, wados in Zeichet mit Baudam et der Avede darf sein Avede Amitis.
So from Chesed to Malchus of Malchus, each one of them breaks down as we know. And this is because the service that we're doing, the working on ourselves, has to be in a complete way. And that's why we have to address our issues one level at a time. Because like the Talmud says, if you try to grab too much at once, you get nothing. Nicht
nur der Linie, was hat der Avede von dem Tag. Hat der Avede und der Meile der Darge in Maseite, zu welcher der Gerecht in dem Schlifnis.
So now when we're counting each day, you don't only have the advantage of the day that you're doing now, but you carry all the positive energy that you've been now transforming until this moment. So now there's a new aspect of being more proactive in our service to Hashem.
Let's go ahead.
Der muss Atmosphäre sein. Nicht, man sagt, jem Schein oder jem Schlische, man sagt, Schnee Jonim oder Schlecher Jonim. A Sekunde, zweiter Tag, heute die Ufto. Man sei mal wieder bei jem Maschine, zusammen damit hat Reche, der Mufto, was zugekommen bei jem Rischen.
That this is the point of why the Hebrew way of the way we count the Omer specifically does it in such a way that it's like not number 2, but the second. The second means there's a first. So the point is that the way that we count the Omer incorporates all the days that are beforehand, and that's because the day of today is not an independence where I'm just working on a particular midah, but I'm working on it with the energy and with that which I've already accomplished by those days that came beforehand. So they're all connected with each other.
Weil der sehr bechol jem bei jem Schele Achro bis zu dem letzten Tag von Sfiras Heime. Heute wird nicht nur den meinen Davide von dem 49. Tag, nur hat einmal der Tesha war, wo ihm jem Davide von der alle 49 Tag, wo sie sagen.
And this is true, of course, when it comes to the 49th day. Then the advantage that we have is not just that it's the 49th day and we've completed it, but the entirety becomes alive in a certain way, that because it's all one unit that we've been working on different aspects of.
And
therefore, number 49 includes within it all of the service of man, till down to the nitty-gritty details of our service.
is mashli, mitzidei, alle protim shebei, as wird nie lezer faten sur meradi shlemus. So
now when we are complete in our cleaning of our vessel, that we're not just complete in the things that we're not supposed to do, that we're practicing restriction, but we're also now complete in the changes that we have to do in terms of the positive mitzvahs.
Then we'll come to the
Then we come to the third aspect, which is the giving of the Torah. Which the concept of the giving of the Torah, like clearly the Torah tells us, and also our sages tell us, that it wasn't that the Torah just revealed something new. So the fact is that we know that the actual Torah existed before it was given at Sinai, as the Talmud clearly tells us that Avram Avinu, Abraham, he actually practiced the Torah, the entire Torah, even before it was given. And the way that it says it about Avram is not that he learned it; it says that he actually did it. Kiyam. That even the rabbinic law that we do, like we're going to do this Shavuot, that when you have to cook on Friday, so you have to make a special thing called an Erev Tavshilin. He even did that nitty gritty. That's how much it was integrated in the life of Avram, the practice of the Torah, the practice. What he's trying to say is that he's discussing what happened on the giving of the Torah. What was it? So he says it wasn't just something new, because look, the fact is that Avram Avinu already knew the Torah. He was already practicing the Torah. So he's leading up to that question.
Go ahead.
Von der Drosche von Teresche Balper, befahrt in der Droschen והגודש שבתורה ושריף סיידס התורה גנוזיס בהם.
He says it's clearly stated about Avram's practice and learning of the Torah, and it's in all different places of the Torah, including in what's called the Agadic part of the Torah, which the Rebbe just mentioned, that they say it is said that most of the secrets of the Torah are couched in those stories in the Talmud that sometimes come across simple.
Ungetan hat aber der Inja, was mir dabei al Hasina. Hat Botla hat Seele von el jenem Lejegele Mat und el jenem Jodele Mato und das gewende war nie Hamasri.
So what happened at Mount Sinai was that there was a getting rid of the decree that stood until then. The decree was that the higher will stay higher, the lower will stay higher, the lower will stay lower, and they won't mix with each other. And then finally, by the giving of the Torah, up until the time of the giving of the Torah, there was a decree in the heavens that the lower world will not be able to access the higher worlds, and the higher worlds will not descend to reveal itself in the lower worlds. And now, at the time of the giving of the Torah, Hashem says, I'm breaking that for now on that decree, and I will be the first one. And that's what happens, that we have the Ten Commandments, which is the first time that there's divine revelation, which penetrates the physicality of the world in a way that even when Abraham did mitzvot, he didn't have to fill in. Nothing became holy, because that's part of the decree up until the time of the giving of the Torah, that nothing could become holy. So it's a physical. So the giving of the Torah, what was the innovation, if you will? What was a brand new thing that happened in the giving of the Torah? Was the fact that decree was broken. Practical sense, that even if somebody acted or did something spiritual, the fact is that the physicality was too much density of the tzimtzum, that was incapable of being a vessel for the light.
Exactly.
And then that decree was broken by giving of the Torah, which through the mitzvot we make that connection with physicality and spirituality. We take physical things and we infuse them with the spirituality.
Exactly.
And that breakthrough happened at the time of the giving of the Ten Commandments. So this truth reveals itself in the fact that we are now able to ascend above, because like the Talmud says about our forefathers, that when they did mitzvot, it was similar metaphorically to a smell. When you smell something, you're not touching the essence of it. When you smell something, it's a smell. It's a whiff of it. So the idea of bringing that back over here to our conversation is the fact that when we do mitzvot with a mezuzah, now the piece of parchment becomes holy. Something divine is revealed in it. That did not take place up until the time of the giving of the Torah. That's why the mitzvahs of the forefathers are referred to as ones that have scent, like metaphorically like scent. Other than specific things, which is circumcision, by the way, is one of them, which obviously made a real change in their body. But other than that, there was, generally speaking, that was the rule. But Torah transformed the lower level, which is the physical world, because that the above now descended to below. So now their physical world could become a vessel, and therefore it could become a physical object, could become an object of holiness. That the extent of which the divine revelation now is capable of now being revealed, is that not only like in a situation like a Torah or mezuzah or tefillin, which you have the name of Hashem on it, but even with other physical matter, we could take physical matter, like on Shabbos when we eat food, for example, or we take tzitzit, we take wool, and we turn it into something holy. So here we are, we're taking the leadership, that which occurred by the giving of the Torah, the ability now for the physical world to be transformed and to be a carrier of the higher divine light.
Und das tut sich gut. Ich mache Teile, als Jodda Teile le Mata, nicht mehr Teile le Mata. Und die Loschen, als sie fragt, was wie der Rambam bringt es herab, als nicht mehr Teile le Mata, gedei lasse schon in Beilam.
And this is what the idea of the Torah being specifically given here below, not just to make peace in the world.
Aber in wel gemacht der Linie von Scholem. Und das ist echt in sich Kehle der Abzeit von Schleimus. Kehle in sich der Scholem, den nie und den Lomi.
So, but the idea of the peace that the Torah is here to create is, the word peace, number one, means also complete in Hebrew. And the point is that the Torah is here to bring peace, like Hashem says, between me and between my world. Meaning, in other words, like in the words of the Medrash, that the Torah gives us the instruction. So basically, the world that we live in has a concealment. And the concealment was so thick until the giving of the Torah that there was no possibility of connection. And now the Torah was given, and there was a revelation that began at Mount Sinai, that now gives us the ability to take the physical world and to transform it with the light of Hashem. And what does that mean? In other words, this is what it means when the Talmud says that the Torah is here to bring peace. Because the first part of bringing peace, Hashem says, is between me and my world. Because before the Torah comes into the conversation, then unfortunately there's a lot of darkness. But the Torah is, it gives us the tools for us to bring about, like he says, the words of the Medrash, to be able to make a dwelling place for the divine here in the physical world. That we're meant to take the Torah and to transform the lowest part, which is a physical world, in a way that it's completely different than it was before you got a hold of it.
Von der jenen Lehrdelemato ist geworden, wie Jedelemato und bis in der Menschen von Dira, aber der Hadire, das darf ich mal bei Sazer.
That the divine breakthrough at Mount Sinai was that the divine light should come and penetrate the physical world to such a degree where it's referred to as a dwelling place. And where's the dwelling place? In this house, which is explained.
Und eben die Konversachante des Seichon, des Seichkolechot ve'echon, me Yisrael.
Beginning with, like Hashem says, I will dwell amongst them, amongst every single one of the Yidden in their hearts. And this does through this, each one of us, with the portion that has been given to us, for us to transform in the world.
And this is
what it means, that you shall make for me a sanctuary, that by us going through this work of transformation, then we transform the lowest of the lowest level of to the degree where there's no lower than it. That's what we're here to do. And this is now completes the third concept, the concept of the Torah. And now that it sounds like the Rebbe is going to just recap. The first concept is going outside of our limitations. From all the impurity of the land until not only your limitation, not only are our limitations that are our temptations or that which we're enslaved to physically, but even to our spiritual limitations. So we're also breaking out of our own spiritual limitations, meaning when we talk about leaving Mitzrayim.
He's saying right now that the way to reach that consciousness, Torah, what it takes is get out of your comfort zone. That he's summarizing it.
Correct. He's summarizing. So first thing you have to do is you have to get out of your Egypt. You have to get out of your Mitzrayim.
Right.
And which is both our limitations, that are things that we're enslaved to, which are opposition to the Torah, and even things that we're enslaved to that are holy. You know, like I'm just giving an example, like
right,
like the amount, like whatever. Everybody knows that we could be spiritually trapped also. So that's the first. So that's the first aspect in this journey, is to break away from which is a split second, but to break away and to run away from our internal Mitzrayim.
weiter in a Seite. Was in der Linie von Teva Elon ist dort bedürfnis.
So and then the second aspect, so the first thing is refraining from doing negative, which is connected to leaving Mitzrayim. And then there's the do good, which is about bringing a purity in the world, as he's going to explain.
Von Wien Havdolle, Bein Hatev und Hefech Hatev. Wie das kommt darauf ins Mann, dass der Havdolle ben Shabbos, wie Mesachei. Was Chil ist dort der Hefech von Kedish. Und Shabbos wird Kedish Milu Begarmi, der
So he's bringing an example of separation of the good and evil, good and negativity, from the idea of the distinction between Shabbat and the days of the week. That Shabbat is a holy day, and the days of the week are days that are mundane.
Von Kedish ist Nacht aus der Ingen Adura der Tirch in der Yomim Shelifnise. Ist Jechel B'Shabbos der Fund wird aufgetan, der Einig Shabbos und Ki Mitzvah Shabbos. So
the way that it works is the Mishnah, the Talmud tells us that whoever toils before Shabbos, he eats on Shabbos. In other words, there's the work that comes before Shabbat, and then there's the enjoyment of all that work that was done that we have on Shabbat. That to the degree that Shabbos is actually called a day of pleasure, like it's brought down and also as it's brought down in our sages. And like our sages tell us that it's a special mitzvah for us to add to the pleasure of Shabbos. You have something that you really like to eat, make it for Shabbos, physically, to add to the pleasure of Shabbos. So you have this huge distinction between the day of Shabbos, Shabbat, and the days of the week.
The Shabbos was mitzadatzme eine.
Okay, that was it. That was it. Now, somehow or another got cut off over there. So that's the end of the mimer.
All right.
That we have. I have to look it up inside to see what but I'm gonna